Maurice Wilson changed his mind about going home. Instead of crash landing on the mountain, he decided to climb all the way up Mount Everest on foot. He travelled illegally over the Tibetan uplands, and on the 30th of May 1933 began his ascent. Maurice Wilson, a very serious religious nut who thought that if you fast for 35 days subsisting on sips of water and pray to God, you could do anything, froze to death 250 feet up Mount Everest. Aloha. Edgar assured me that this story was perfectly true. Cardinal Phillips always liked to spend at least 15 minutes each afternoon at the piano, which he had unfortunately never learned to play. Cardinal Phillips continued with this habit when he became the most powerful cardinal in Rome as the head of the Congregation of the Doctrine of the Faith, that is to say, the Inquisition. Cardinal Phillips had been sat some 7 minutes in front of his piano when one of his officials entered his office and promptly stubbed his toe on a radiator that reached out into the doorway. The day he moved into the office, Cardinal Phillips had workmen moved the radiator into the doorway so that he could see if any of his underlings would take the Lord's name in vain when they collided with the metal. The repositioning of the radiator meant, of course, that the Cardinal could not close his door, but this had not troubled him, giving him the opportunity to observe the behaviour of his underlings at their desks. On this particular day, the official walked into the radiator and mumbled under his breath the word, "Mama." And although this made Cardinal Phillips' eyebrow rise somewhat, he decided to drop the matter, as the priest had not said "Holy Mama" or "Blessed Mama." If he had done so, it would have been quite a different matter. Cardinal Phillips did not turn around. He sat perfectly still in front of his piano. The official hovered in the centre of the room for a moment, then boldly walked up to the Cardinal, and leaning over his shoulder, gently rested the piece of paper he held in his hand in front of the upside-down sheets of Mozart on the piano. Cardinal Phillips snatched the piece of paper up and, without looking at it, waved it at the official, who immediately retreated to the centre of the room. "Brother Howe, what is this, a confession?" "I am busy. As you can see, I am spending 15 minutes of this afternoon, as I do every afternoon, in front of my piano, and I do not wish to be disturbed." Cardinal Phillips glanced at the piece of paper, a photocopy of a page of almost illegible handwriting, and read part of it absent-mindedly. Then he stood up, clutched the document with both hands, and read it carefully again. Then he shouted the following words, "Holy Mama!" Then the Cardinal put the piece of paper under his elbow, pulled up his cassock, and rushed for the door, where he hit his leg on the obtrusive radiator, fell backwards, and hit his head on the piano. It released a few discordant notes before the Cardinal dropped to the floor, unconscious and bleeding profusely. At the same time that Cardinal Phillips received his blow to the head, Edgar Malroy flew to Jerusalem and presented plans for a £5 million metaphysical betting shop in the heart of the old city, opposite the famous Wailing Wall. Edgar Malroy made his plans public and told the Jerusalem press that, "From the very beginning I have wanted to come to Jerusalem. I know a number of nuts who regularly travel from the Middle East to the metaphysical betting shop in London, and that many more nuts would do the same if they could afford to. This is silly. If there is a nut anywhere in the world, I want to take his money from him, with the minimum of inconvenience to him, which is why I want to open a betting shop in this beautiful and very nutty city of yours." Edgar Malroy said that the proposed betting shop would employ some 400 people recruited locally. It would also have facilities for disabled customers. Edgar Malroy said that in addition to the betting shop, he would build a healthcare centre and a milk processing plant to produce over 2 tons of dried milk a day, all of which he would give away to sick and poor children in and around Jerusalem. And he would also hand out food at the proposed metaphysical betting shop for the down and outs at weekends, provided no one talked about God. Tony Boutel, spokesman for Jerusalem City Council, told reporters that officials had only just received the plans and hoped to discuss them further at a meeting on the 16th of June. Pleased with the early response, Edgar flew from Jerusalem to California and presented a similar proposal for a betting shop on 35,000 square feet of land near Long Beach. It was while Edgar Malroy was in the States that he was informed that his company had just taken its 1 millionth bet. The millionth metaphysical bet to have been placed in one of the two newly opened betting shops was made by Yvonne Creed, who bet £32.50 that hell is very hot. Yvonne Creed became a minor celebrity and was interviewed in all the papers. Edgar Malroy sent Yvonne Creed an all expenses paid trip around the world on a cruise liner. On the 2nd of June, Edgar Malroy went public. His metaphysical betting business became known as Scepticism Inc. Ordinary shares were offered to anyone except priests at £8.50 each, and by the end of the first day of trading the price had shot up to £30. A block of 100 shares purchased for £8,500 was worth more than £1.5 million 2 years later. Scepticism Inc. became one of the 60 companies that made up the FTSE. On the same day, the Virgin Mother appeared to Sophia Alderson. Again, she appeared in Sophia Alderson's room wearing a beekeeper's outfit. She leaned over and whispered into Sophia's left ear in a strangely South African accent the date for the end of the world. Imagine that.